Assalamu alaikum. This is lecture number 24 for CS 116 Object Oriented Programming. So let's begin. We have been discussing a case study this week. We were implementing this game, quiz game. So far, we have finalized the design. We did this in the first lecture of this week. And in last lecture, we implemented these three classes: questions, question DB, and quiz. Only one class is left, which we'll be doing in today's lecture. One thing that I want you to appreciate here is that, see, we worked thoroughly on the design of this application. So while implementing, it was really easy. Like we did not have to do much effort on thinking like what to do at which stage. We just took those class diagrams and we went on implementing these classes one by one, and it worked. So in today's session, we'll first complete that coding. Only one class was left, user interface. We'll code this class, and then we'll see what expansion can we make to our application, and how much code needs to be changed for that. Okay, so let's begin. So just to recall, this is our user interface class. At that stage, I felt that we do not need any attributes here. So attributes space is empty, and there are some methods, and they are really easy methods. Two of them, they are simply some print methods. They'll display some menus. They'll do nothing else. And then we have a constructor, initiator, and an edit menu method. So let's start implementing these methods. Okay, the first method that I'm implementing here is this constructor init method. Now, what kind of display I want? When my application starts, I want to display a menu, and in that menu, I'll give user two choices, in fact, three choices, whether to take the quiz or manage the quiz, that means edit the quiz, or simply exit from the application. So I just need to display that menu here. Okay, one more thing that I want here is that I want to come back to the menu once one option has been executed. Like, I don't want to exit forcefully. The application will exit only when user opts for that through that main menu. So we have done that so many times. We need an infinite loop for that. I'll simply print this menu. I'll implement this method shortly, and then user will enter a choice number. If user enters 1, okay, first one is for the managers if he or she wants to edit quiz. So we'll call this method edit quiz. I'll implement this method shortly here in this class. What this method will do, it will provide further choices to the user, like what he wants to do with the question bank, whether want to view that question bank or add questions or remove questions. I hope you can recall that interface that we discussed in the first lecture of this week. But if user enters choice 2, that means he or she wants to take the quiz. And if you remember from that quiz class, if you want to execute that quiz, you just have to instantiate an object of this type. So that's all what I'm doing. And if the user enters any other key apart from 1 and 2, this application will exit. Right? Loop will break and we'll exit from the application. Now here's that simple display main menu method. So there is nothing special about it. I try to make it a little fancy using those sterics. Otherwise, it's just printing these options. So there is nothing much to explain here. Okay, now this is the second menu. This menu will appear when the user opts for that manage quiz option. So we should offer user more choices then. So these are the choices that I have decided. Again, I tried to make it a little fancy using that design. So either user can view the question bank using first option, or user can add a question to the bank, remove question from the bank, save changes. Like you see, we were adding question or removing question from the list that had been loaded into question DB class. So if you want to save changes, we have to write that list back to the file. So save changes will simply write the updated list to the file. Okay, we can go back to the main menu, or simply we can press any other key to exit. Like we can exit from this menu also. I don't want to go back to the main menu, I just want to exit from here, so I'm providing this extra option here. Now let's implement this last method, edit menu. This edit menu will be called if user opts for manage quiz choice, like if the user opts option 2 from the main menu. So what I'm doing here, I am instantiating an object of question DB type. I'm calling it QDB. And if you recall what it will do, it will simply load my question bank into a question list, and that question list is part of this class. So QDB will contain that list. So QDB dot question list will take me to that list, to my question bank actually. Okay, now here first of all I display the menu, like if user wants to see the list or add question or remove question or whatever, and I take the option. For first one, I just need to call this method print question list. It will print all the questions. Actually, it will print my question bank. It will show all the questions, and it will also assign ID to each question, 1 2 3 4 5 etc. And if user enters choice 2, I simply need to call that add question method from the same class. And if user enters choice number 3, I only need to call that remove question method. And if user enters choice 4, I need to call that save list method, save question list. Right? So far so good. If user enters choice 5, I have to go back to the main menu. So I'll just break. Okay, if you go to that initiator method, you'll see this break will take me to the outer loop. Actually, this break will break me from this current loop that is there in this current method edit menu, and then I'll go back to the outer loop, which is in the constructor. Okay, and this is the last option. If user hits any other key, he or she should exit from the application. Now here I'm using something new. I'm using sys.exit function. It's a built-in function, and if you do not provide any argument to this function, then your application exits normally. And in order to use this function, you have to import this module, import sys. So just try this. It's a nice method. Now, what you have to do in the main program, you have to do nothing now. You just instantiate an object of user interface. That's it. And that will start your application. So that's all with coding. Now, one last thing about this user interface class. I hope many of you would have noticed this, that all the methods except that constructor, the remaining 3 methods, display main menu, display edit menu, and edit menu, all these 3 methods were declared static in this class. And how do you know they are static? Because I did not pass that essential self argument to these methods. Also, wherever I reference these methods, I reference them using the class name. So that means that they are static methods. And you see, they are called internally, and I'm not calling any method of this class from outside. So it's justified to make them static. So it's your choice. You could have made them instance methods also, but making them static is, I think, a preferred choice in this scenario. Now, although it was a small application, but there was a lot of work in it. And I'm afraid that many of you might not understand the code, whole code, perfectly in one go. Actually, the purpose of this case study was not to make you understand the code fully or to memorize the code. The main purpose of this case study was to show you the process, like how you start thinking about an application, how you work it out, and how you code it afterwards. So if you didn't get some parts of the code, then that's absolutely fine. The main thing is that now you should be able to take up your own term projects. Like you should, I think that this will help you in designing your applications, and that will make your life a little easier. I hope so. Now let's see what you can add to this existing application of the quiz game. You can think of a lot of things, but here are some that I could think of. The first one is that you give user choice for the quiz, like he or she could select the topic. We discussed this during design phase as well, but there at that time I said that to keep things simple, I opted for a general quiz only. But now we are done with the basic structure, so let's see how we can add this feature to our existing application. Then you can also provide for some credential authentication for quiz managers, because you see, you allow anybody to take the quiz, but you cannot allow anybody to go and change your quiz, because like you cannot allow any random person to just go and delete questions from your question bank or add some weird questions or unrelated questions to your question bank. You cannot do that. So you can add this feature that only authorized users can manage or edit the quiz. Then you can add some GUI to make it more pleasing or better looking, more easy to grasp. You can do that, and you can make a web interface so that it is accessed from web instead of this, standalone application. So I'm not going to implement all of these. I'm opting the first two, the easier ones, keeping in mind the time we have, and again keeping the things uh, to a moderate level of complexity. So let's see how we can achieve these two tasks. Now let's see what we can do to add this first expansion. Here we'll give user a choice to select subject for the quiz out of these two subjects, science quiz or a general knowledge quiz. Now this is the flow diagram that we worked upon in the first lecture of this week while working on the design of this project. Now here you see the yellow highlighted ones. These are the places where we need to add the option. So what we have to do, as you can see from the blue blocks, that we'll have to store the question banks separately. This could be one option. I think this is the most feasible option, that you store question bank for general knowledge questions separately, and you make another question bank for science questions. So you can do that. And one thing that I missed in that design last time, that if you are going to provide this choice to the user when taking the quiz, you have to provide the same choice to the quiz manager as well. So you see, this part was missing when we were talking about the design, but it should be there too. So if I want to add this feature, I have to make certain changes to that purple part as well as to the green part. So let's see how we can do this. Now this is the class diagram that we finalized for our existing quiz game. Now let's see where we need to make the changes in order to provide this choice to the user. First of all, what we have to do, we have to define two separate question banks. Up till now, we were using only one file, question DB. Now I can define two separate files, like one for science quiz, question DB science, and other for general knowledge quiz, question DB GK for general knowledge. This could be one approach, like defining two separate files is one approach. You can use any other approach as well, but I think at this point this is the easiest thing that we can do. So we define two separate files. Now the problem will appear when we try to access a file. So we need to locate all those methods here which are using those files. Actually, previously they had been using just one file. We have to just provide choice there. So what we can do, we just locate those methods, and in those methods we had hard coded a name of that file. So instead of hard coding them that name, we can pass the name as parameter to those methods. So you just locate those methods and you just pass file name as parameter, so that the respective file can be loaded according to user's choice, right? The last thing that you will do here is this: you will have to update user interface. You have to add some menus there to provide user this choice, science quiz or general knowledge quiz, and you will have to make a couple of changes there in user interface. So if I try to locate where I was accessing those files in question class, I wasn't using the files, that question bank, but in question DB I was accessing that question bank in these two methods, save question list and load question list. So I can pass file name as parameter here, so that I don't need to change the rest of the code, and then relevant file will be loaded or saved or written into, right? Then we were instantiating an object of QDB type in quiz class. So basically we were doing that in constructor. So I'll have to make some changes here, because that means that this initiator should be passed the name of the file, and then it will pass it to the initiator of question DB, and then question DB will call this method load question list with that file name. So this is one approach, but there is one potential problem with this approach. Here what we are doing, we are changing or updating the existing code. So it's quite possible that these same classes, question DB and quiz, they could be used by some other users as well. Or let's suppose you are working on a very big project and you are assigned just one part of it, the quiz interface part, but there are other parts also, and they might be accessing these classes. So you just cannot go on changing that code by yourself. What problem will it cause? Actually, I forgot to highlight this user interface class. So the problem this change will cause is that it will change the interface of these classes. Interface means that you are changing the public methods of this class, which are accessed by other classes or other parts of application. So changing the interface can cause a lot of problems. So this is not a very good approach. Although it's a very clean approach, it will not use a lot of code, extra code, but this is not appropriate if you are using some already built classes. If you are sure that you are the only ones who are using these classes, then it's fine. Otherwise, this is not the preferred approach. So let's see another approach. Now, in this second approach, what I'll do, I will not change the existing code. I will not change the interface of these classes, question DB and quiz. The first class question, we don't need to make any changes to that. So the two classes under consideration are question DB and quiz. I'm not considering user interface, because user interface has to be changed in any case. You might need to write a completely new user interface, and that's perfectly fine. So the main classes of concern are question DB and quiz. Now what I can do in my second approach, I locate that method. Okay, first of all, I'll have to define two separate files. I'll have to do that in second approach as well. And then I'll derive subclasses from these classes, either question DB or quiz, and I'll override those methods which are creating problem or which require redefinition. So I can do this, and let's see how we can do this here, and then we'll update the user interface, which is inevitable. So if I talk about question DB, these were the two methods that need to be changed, save question list and load question list. So what I can do, I can derive a subclass from question DB. Let's call it question DB science, because this will maintain the question bank for science quiz. And I'll redefine only these two functions here. And here I can change the name of that file. And I hope you remember what's the rule with method overriding. So whenever I instantiate an object of this question DB science type, what will happen? It will access a method. It will first look for that method in this current class, and if it is not able to find it there, it will go to the parent class. So that means save question list and load question list, they will be executed from this new child class, the red one, and remaining methods will be accessed from the parent class. Same I can do with for general knowledge quiz. I can define another subclass or child class, and let's call it question dbgk, right? So now this class question DB has been taken care of. Now let's come to the second class quiz. Now if you recall what we were doing here, we were instantiating an object of question DB type in the constructor over here. So we were instantiating an object of question DB type. So if the user opts for a science quiz, now what change we need to do? We must instantiate an object of question DB science type instead of just simple question DB type. Similarly, if user wants to take a general knowledge quiz, then I should instantiate an object of question DB GK type instead of that simple question DB type. So that means I just need to update this initiator. But instead of changing the code inside this constructor, what I'll do here, again, I'll derive two subclasses from this main class quiz. This is the first class, and in this class, I'll only override this constructor initiator. And I'll copy the code, but I'll just change the name of the class. Instead of question DB, I'll write question DB science. And similarly, for the second class, I'll write question DB GK. So that's how I'm not changing the actual code, and I'm driving these two classes, and this will surely work. And after doing this, see, we have not altered the original code here. So after doing this, what we need to do, we need to update the user interface. And that might, as I said earlier, that might require many changes. You might have to rewrite the whole thing again. So that's not an issue, because user interface is usually not shared by many application. Every application defines its own user interface. So that's what we need to do in order to implement this first feature. Now I'm not showing you the code for this because this is pretty simple, and I just wanted to talk about the approach, like how we would go about if we want to make this change in our application. Now let's talk about the second feature. This was the second feature. I want to add some credentials for quiz managers. So here is the finalized class diagram so far. Now, if I want to add credentials, I don't need to make changes in any of those base classes like question or question DB or quiz. Even the red ones, quiz science, quiz GK, question DB GK, question DB science, because this can be taken care of in the user interface, because user interface is setting up everything for that quiz manager. So before setting up everything for that quiz manager, a user interface can ask for a username and password. So this is the place where we need to make changes. So we'll update user interface, and you see, you can also, if you want to maintain a list of managers, so what you can do, you can create another file by any name, and you can keep a list of valid credentials there. So every time a user enters a username password, you can just go and see that file if that pair exists there. Otherwise, you can deny access, right? So this is not very complicated. So see, that's how we have incorporated those two features that we decided on, and this is the finalized look of our application. Now the design of our application is complete. What are the takeaway points? First one is that work hard on the design. A good design, it will result in easier coding. Then when developing your application, start developing it class by class. Design and code and test each class independently, and then integrate everything in the end. And the third one is that whenever you are expanding a design, just take care not to change the existing interface of a commonly used class. because some other application or some other parts of the same application might be using those classes. So if you change the interface, then that can cause some unforeseen errors, and that can become a headache later. So that's all. But before leaving, I would like to show you one thing more. Let's take this application to PyCharm, because PyCharm is a lot better IDE for bigger applications, and let's see how that can be helpful in this scenario. So the remaining part of this lecture is based on PyCharm. Now let's run our program in PyCharm, launching the application. Okay, it's asking me to create a new project. You can give it any name. Let's suppose I call it quiz game. Now it takes some time to create the environment. Why we have come to PyCharm? Because when you are making a larger project containing more than one Py files, then it's really difficult to navigate through those files in idle. So PyCharm provides an easy clickable environment in which you can just switch files easily, and you can view them easily. So that makes life of a programmer easier when making larger projects. And apart from that, it also offers tons of interesting features. Even if you don't explore them right now, still that navigation feature, it will help you a lot. Now here at right bottom, just cancel this out, these are just the tips. Here is my project quiz game, and you see there are two panes right now. This leftmost pane, it contains the navigation options, and rightmost pane, it will contain the file, whichever file I open. So let's create a new file. Let's suppose I create a new file and call it test. Okay, by default it creates a Python file, otherwise you can choose the type of this file as well. Now you see here I can write anything. Let's suppose I'm writing this simple statement. Okay, and then you can run it using this option. Here you have this run. Okay, there are two options, edit configuration or test. So I'm not going into detail of this edit configuration, I'll just run this file, and then this third pane appears at the bottom, and here we have our output. Right now, I think most of you know this from last semester. You did this in your lab too. So what features you can add? For example, I know one interesting feature. If you want to put this statement in some structure like looping structure or if structure or a try block, you just need to click on it and press. Okay, now one of the features that you can add here is that if, let's suppose, you want to print it, put this statement into some like if else block, or into some loop, or into some try except block, then what you can do, you can use a shortcut here. You press Alt, Control and T. Okay, just first click it here, Control, Alt and T, and you see here a list of all those constructs appear. So if I choose try except, it will automatically put it into that try except block. So this is just one feature. There are tons of such other features that makes life of a programmer much easier and makes the coding process much faster once you get used to it. But still, I don't want you to explore all those features. I just want to show you that with multiple files you can, if you are using PyCharm, that will give you some advantage over using idle. So let me show you that. What I'll do here next is I'll copy paste my project here, because I have already developed all those files for quiz game in idle. So I'll just copy all these files. I have provided you with all these files, and I just paste them here. Okay, now you see my whole project appears here. Let's delete this test because we don't need it anymore. Okay, now you see all these files. This is my question class, this is my question DB class, This is the text file that I uploaded, which contained the question bank. Then this is quiz class, this is user interface class, and this is quiz game, the main interface from where my program starts, right? So the point is here that you see all these files, they are available at just a click away. You can click any of the files here and you can navigate through your project so easily. This was not possible in idle. Like you can open all your files, but navigation is not as easy as it is here in PyCharm. So I would recommend you to use this in your projects. If you are using multiple files, it will make your life a lot easier as compared to using idle, right? Now, what I want to show you here is there is one more feature. That feature is available in idle as well. You can convert your project into a standalone file. By standalone file, I mean that here right now I can run it. I can run this file, quiz game file. I can just go to run and run it. But what I want you to show here is that here when you are running, you require PyCharm and idle at the backend. But if you convert it into a standalone file, that will run without any interpreter or PyCharm at backend. So let's see how we can do that. Now, in order to convert it, we require a third-party package called PyInstaller. Now, what are these third-party packages? There is a huge database of such packages available for Python, and each package provide a different functionality. We are familiar with using those built-in packages. We have used that math package, we have used tkinter, and many other packages, random package, that's sys package. And what we need to do, we just import those packages, and we can use any function or any class from those packages. So similarly, apart from these built-in packages, a number of third-party packages are available. We just need to install them, and once they are installed, you can use them just the way you use any of those built-in packages. So first I'll show you how you can install that package, and then after installing PyInstaller, we'll do the required conversion. Now, PIP or pip or pipe, some people call it pipe, some people call it pip. It's the largest third-party repository for for these packages. So you can go to their site, pip.org or pip.com. I don't remember exactly the name. You can find the list of all these packages there. But in PyCharm, I have the list here also. So let me show you that list from here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to install that package PyInstaller. Now there are two ways to install that package. Either you can go to this terminal, and here you type a command, a pip command, pip space install space package name, and then that package you hit enter, and that package gets installed. The same thing you can use with idle also. In idle, you just go to command prompt and you type this command, and you can install any package in idle as well. But in PyCharm, there is a graphical way also. What you can do, you go to file, settings, and here you have this project quiz game. In quiz game, you have project interpreter, and here you will find pip. If you double click it, you see this is the list of all those wonderful packages. Now I need to find PyInstaller, so I write here PyInstaller, and I select it and I click install package. Okay, you just close it, click OK. It will appear here. See, here's the progress bar, and it's installing your package. And now here's the success message. Now that package has been installed successfully. Now what we need to do, we just need to run that PyInstaller command from that package, and that will convert our project into an executable. Now, in order to run that command, we'll go to terminal again. Here you write PyInstaller space, and you write the name of your py file, executable py file. So in my case, quizgame.py is the executable py file. So I give the name here, quizgame.py. Okay, the spelling is correct. I'll just hit enter and see it's converting it into an executable. Okay, it has been converted successfully. Once this has been converted, you can find it here. You just click it. Here there's a folder called dist, and this folder contains this quiz game folder. Now this quiz game folder is that executable that we wanted. Now what you can do to test it, you can test it from here as well. You see it contains a number of files and it contains an executable file also. Here it is, that exe. But a better thing is that I copy this to some other folder, so that you may know that I'm closing PyCharm, I'm closing idle, and still I can execute it. So I'll just open it in Explorer. I'll copy it from here. I'll go to some other drive and let's copy it here. Okay, now if I close this program, PyInstaller, still I would be able to execute it. You see, now idle is not running, PyCharm is not running. Now let's run this using that exe. Okay, now here if you see, if you open this folder, you see here is a list of all supporting files, and you won't find your code file anywhere here. And this is the exe, and if you run this exe, you will be able to run the application. But there is one small problem. Actually, it does not bundle those text files. So I need to copy my question bank here explicitly. So here is my question bank. I'll copy it and I'll paste it here. Okay, now if I run my exe, you see it's running, and I select option. Let's take a quiz. Option 2. Okay, I think USA. Then what is the capital of Chile? Santiago. Which of these is not a programming language? Okay. And then largest country in the world, I think Russia. And this is the last question. River Thames is in London. Option A. So you see, I did really well, and this is your standalone application. So I hope some of you might use this in your project, and you'll find this portion of the video really useful.